First off, if you're dating, you can definitely map people's brains.
Did you do that to your husband before you guys get married?
I was going to do interior design, and I said, let's throw that away. Let's go the more medical route. Really what happened is I just grew so rapidly. Neurofeedback is going to change your life.
Obviously, you're talking about the brain and health and stuff like that. Do you have to have certain licenses and certifications for that? Or
you need to be board certified.
What's some of the success stories that you've seen with some of the stuff that you've done?
I mean, we've seen over 10,000 clients probably over the last 10 or so years. So first responders struggle with sleep quite a bit. When you get messages saying like, I slept through the night for the first time in 2 decades, I mean, that's a game changer. We actually serve clients worldwide now, which it's been amazing. But
what's the farthest country?
Whoa, let's get it. Whoa. Clear out the room, I'm coming through. They want to see what I'm about.
And that's the name, you know.
I'm on a paper route. Extra.
You gonna hook me up? Okay.
Today's trying to tap it. I put commas over bullshit. Yeah, I put that on mamas. Hey, they trying to block all my blessings.
Hey, welcome back to the People of Oklahoma podcast, where I talk to very interesting people that live here in Oklahoma. Well, the guest I have on today lives here 1 week out of the month in Oklahoma, but she does own a business here, and it is called Braincode Centers of Tulsa. She has locations in Denver, Dallas, here in Tulsa, and basically what they do is they do neurofeedback, which I don't really know much about, and so that's the reason why I'm having her on. So let's give it up for Rachel Lambert.
thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Rachel Lambert in the house. So let's talk about how we met. So you started it.
My husband sent me your thing on Instagram, your handle.
Yeah.
He's like, this guy looks cool. He has a platform that promotes businesses. So it was the husband who would have thought.
Yeah. And so basically you sent me a DM and I was like, what is neurofeedback? I have no idea what this is. So before we get started, just tell me a little bit about what neurofeedback is for people that don't know.
Yeah, so I actually got introduced to brain mapping and neurofeedback from a personal story. So for those of you that are listening, it's a way to address mental health. So all things anxiety, depression, trauma, ADHD, sleep issues, migraines, you name it. We originally take a baseline EEG, which is what I had you come do.
Yep.
So Stephen got a brain map, and we look at the electrical production of the brain, right? So what we know about that is it's going to create clinical patterns for people. So what we're identifying as root neurological causes for people's symptomology that they struggle with. Neurofeedback then is the therapy that we specialize in. So in a nutshell, right, people enter into the neurofeedback program to help correct unfavorable neurological patterns. So neurofeedback is operant conditioning, which is reward-based training. We're teaching the brain, utilizing various forms of auditory and visual feedback, how to self-correct these unfavorable wave activities. So
it's kind of like what's that thing you learned in high school?
Pavlov's dog.
Yes. You remember that, Sarah? Pavlov's dog? Did you learn about that, Sarah? Yeah. So it's like positive reinforcement.
That's exactly what it is. You nailed it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So like, do you like give your brain a treat?
I tell people we're not going to sit there and, hand you pieces of filet mignon or little M&Ms. That might be cool. But we're providing your brain with auditory and visual feedback. So our clients are actually hooked up with little EEG electrodes, and those electrodes are connected to our software. Inside our software, our clinical team puts in the tailored protocols for each client. And then the way that your brain gets rewarded is with auditory and visual cues. So really clients are almost getting to play video games, but they're actually doing it with brain activity. So the video will not play or the game will not play, sounds will not play unless the brain is hitting the thresholds that we're asking it to. So you're really challenging the brain to have to hit these thresholds in order to get the novelty reward.
That's sick. Have they ever tried negative reinforcement?
Just like slapping the clients.
Yeah, or like electric shock.
So we're not putting anything into the brain. This is a big misconception.
And that's the reason why I brought it up. Because
but if you want to do ECT therapy, you definitely could.
Yeah. So you will not get shocked if you do this.
No shocking happens at Braincode Centers.
No shocking. No shocking. So you said at the very beginning that you had a personal experience with this. When did you get this done?
So I did it when I was about 17 years old. I was very much a reckless, wild child growing up, gave my parents a run for their money. And I really did struggle though, like struggled with impulsivity, horrible decision making, anxiety, depression. I mean, you name it. I had actually been told multiple times from friends and family members, like your daughter is going to be dead or in jail if she doesn't figure out what the heck's going on.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was pretty significant. So I personally didn't want to have to rely on medication my whole life. And traditional talk therapy, while that is important, it just wasn't really moving the needle for me.
Right.
So my parents ended up finding out about this form of therapy. I went and did it. Really what the results showed was my frontal cortex, so the frontal lobe of my brain, which is like the decision maker of my brain, was moving 150 miles an hour with no brakes, right? So I'm just doing whatever I want and paying for the consequences later, right? It was more of a clinical pattern of bipolar disorder, which is typically a life sentence of medication management. Thankfully, that wasn't my story. I ended up doing a whole series of this reward-based training. And at the end of the therapy, I did a second brain map, and literally the new mapping of the results showed not one pattern for bipolar disorder. So it was such a remarkable, amazing just testimony that I had. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want more people to really understand, like, there is a way to get in control of your brain health. Your brain does not need to run you and run your emotions. You absolutely can be in control of your own brain.
Huh. So did you get diagnosed with like bipolar beforehand, or did you not figure out that you kind of had this bipolar thing until after you did the brain mapping?
Yeah. So I didn't know. I think looking back, right, we
sense.
saw the writing on the wall, but until I saw that brain map, I didn't really understand that about
How did your
myself.
parents find that? Just like off a web Google search or something? Or
They actually, I think one of my mom's friends was doing it, and they were like, this is this weird brain training thing, but maybe check it out. And so it began the exploration.
Because I remember you telling me where were you living at when this first, when your parents found it? Were you down in Dallas or?
I was, good memory. Yeah. I was living in Denver, but I actually ended up moving to Dallas because we didn't know anybody in Denver doing that form of therapy at the time.
Right. And so they like shipped you out, and your aunt lives down there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you like went down there for 30 days and did like almost like a rehab for brain mapping for 30
Remember,
straight days.
you have this fast processing speed. This is why your memory is on point.
Dude, we're about to talk about some crazy stuff. Like, my brain is perfect. I even have a brain map. Sarah, you need to look at my brain. It is perfect.
But that is a good memory.
Yep.
And yes, I did end up doing all of my sessions in Dallas.
Yeah. So did you see like an instant result after your very first one? When you were 17 or when you're 17?
I think when you're still a teenager, I don't think my self-awareness was probably as maybe robust as hopefully I've worked on it being better in my later years. And so my mom was the one that actually said that when I would call her, that my voice just sounded grounded. She said it just sounded like I had the best version of our daughter back. So she heard it really in the sound of my voice. I did not notice it, honestly, probably until about a couple months down the road when I was like, wow, I feel so in control of what's going on. Now, a lot of our clientele will notice like significant symptom reduction. I think I was just so young and taken away from my regular situation. It was harder for me to perceive it.
So after you get this brain mapping thing done, did you go to college, or what was your next step after you kind of got your life back in a way?
Sikkim Bears. Went down to Baylor University.
Oh, you went to Baylor?
Yep.
So funny story. I guess the first president of Baylor University is my great grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a fun
Which
fact.
It's too far down the lineage that I didn't get any free, tuition or anything. Actually, I didn't even get accepted.
I was going to say, you didn't go to Baylor.
No, I didn't. I wasn't smart enough, but yeah.
Well,
Baylor.
maybe you just didn't apply yourself because your brain does say that you're pretty smart.
Yep. Oh, thank you. That's like the nicest thing
Sikkim
ever.
Bears.
So you went down to Baylor University. What was your degree in?
Psychology and neuroscience.
Okay, so after you got this brain mapping thing, you're like, hey, I want to do some more stuff with this. So
I was going to do interior design, and I said, let's throw that away. Let's go the more medical route.
Okay. And then was it your goal to always start up these centers?
It was absolutely my goal. I had no business savvy, so it's been a really interesting last 15 or so years. But I knew that is exactly what I wanted to do. And I figured if I had the accreditations to do it and the schooling to back it, that I could figure out how to do it when I was done.
Yeah, that's the two reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast was, first off, this brain stuff is super, super interesting, but you also started a company and have multiple locations, across the United States now, which I thought was super interesting that you're able to do from no experience in that and just kind of growing it yourself, which was super cool. So after you get out of college, did you go straight into opening your first location, or?
So I ended up working with a handful of doctors. Actually, it just kind of happenstance happened. I had some relationships with some just well-established doctors in the Denver area. And really what happened is I just grew so rapidly. I was so passionate about it. At any chance I could get, I'm like telling people, I just love brain mapping. Neurofeedback is going to change your life. And so it just organically grew and grew and grew. Series of things happened, but yes, I ended up starting my own practice, and then that turned into multiple sites and then multiple states. We now have a remote solution, so for people that aren't in Denver, Dallas, Tulsa, they can actually utilize a headband as well as an app that we've created and do brain training from the comfort of their home.
Wow.
So we actually serve clients worldwide now, which it's been amazing. But
What's the farthest country?
we have somebody in Dubai.
Dubai?
That might be the farthest, but South Africa, Italy, a bunch of people in Canada.
How do they find you? Just online?
Instagram, I think.
Instagram?
Yeah.
Nice.
Australia. I have a
Australia?
handful of people in Australia.
That's pretty far.
Yeah.
You ever been to Australia?
No, gosh, I want to.
Dude, I want to, dude. That's
Just
the
want to
one
go like
place.
play with a kangaroo.
Yes,
So
same.
cute.
So with the brain mapping center, do you have to because obviously you're talking about the brain and health and stuff like that. Do you have to have certain licenses and certifications for that, or
If you want to do it by yourself, right? I definitely, you need to be board certified in neurofeedback. You need to have QEEGD, which is the highest level of certification to read EEG brain waves, in my opinion. We operate as a clinical team. So I have 50 employees with a bunch of different types of level of licensure, but we have a kind of staggered clinical team. So my highest level of accreditation is going to do all of our protocol creation and all of that, and then we have the neurofeedback technicians and specialists that implement the neurofeedback. But there's definitely people out there that might just do it all on their own or whatnot that might have all of it.
oh, so you actually do have to have there's licenses for all of this stuff.
I think you could probably buy equipment, sadly, from through a doctor and get a week training in neurofeedback. I wouldn't.
We're really recommend
I
that.
personally wouldn't go to someone like that, but you can.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even know there was a bunch of licenses and stuff, which is
Yes.
good to know because I think it's important stuff.
For sure.
So when you so you started in Denver, what's some of the success stories that you've seen with some of this stuff that you've done?
Wow. Gosh, over the years, we've seen over 10,000 clients probably over the last 10 or so years. So, and it's just grown rapidly. I have a huge heart for first responders. So we work with thousands of first responders. We have lots of just government contracts with fire and police. And that being said, I think some of those are some really powerful stories. Guys that haven't slept well in...
Because of PTSD stuff?
Yeah, or just the way that their shift schedules are or whatnot. First responders struggle with sleep quite a bit. And when you get messages saying I slept through the night for the first time in 2 decades, that's a game changer, right? For their focus, for their family. Being able to connect with their family, right? Turning on, first responding during the day, but then actually going and being emotionally present with their family. That's amazing when you're able to keep a family together. So I love that. Kids, we work with a ton of kids. So we get, parents that are just desperate to find answers for their kids, and then they come in and maybe they've tried meds or tried all these different things to help them, and neurofeedback finally, they're not getting kicked out of school, they're getting good remarks from their teachers, they're able to be a joy at home. All of that is what it's all about.
Yeah, because with my kids, my youngest son Forrest, he's just real wild, but with all this new information or true information coming out about medications and things like that, obviously talk to your doctor, listen to your doctor, but we just didn't want to go down that route either personally. And so when I heard from you and you reached out, I was like, man, this could be a great option to try to delay the process of getting our kids on medication. So you deal with that quite a bit too?
Oh my gosh, I feel like 8 out of 10 kiddos are probably misdiagnosed with ADD, ADHD. It is a very overdiagnosed diagnosis, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we can actually see on the brain map, right? are you actually just struggling with symptoms of ADHD, or do you actually have a clinical disposition to fall into that category? And so many kids come in and they're not ADHD, they just have an overstimulated, overactive brain. You start to calm that down and that they never need to be medicated. And I am not anti-medication, that's not at all what I'm saying. But to your point, if you can actually get to the root neurological issue of what's going on and heal that, why would we not want to try that first, right?
Right, exactly. With the process, so like let's say I'm coming in, my first time coming into Braincode Centers. What do I do first? What's the first thing we do?
I love education because half the people listening to this, they don't even know what the heck brain mapping and neurofeedback is. So meeting with a specialist, I actually do a small percentage still of the consultations, or you're going to meet with my VP and we do a whole 30, 45 minute, like, let's educate you. Let's hear about what's going on, tell you about the process, get you really empowered in that. Then you start with the baseline EEG, whether that's done in person or remote. We're doing,
and that's a brain mapping thing. Okay.
A brain map. Yep. Brain scan. Then we're going to do the review of results. So that's a really powerful time. You get a full hour to just understand exactly how your brain's operating, see all these cool images of colors that we explain to you on what that means and how that's related to what you're struggling with. And then you start the actual therapy.
Yeah. So with the mapping part, you measure alpha, gamma, radiation?
A bunch of them.
What was
all
it?
Those brainwaves, yeah. Delta, theta, alpha, beta.
Yeah, there we go. So you measure those things and you're able to see different things from those gamma rays. What are they called?
Precisely, yeah. Yes. I mean, we're looking at a handful of different things. How much power each one of those brainwaves yields, right? Are they too high, too low in power? Location of the brain where these show up matters, right? There's different areas of the brain that definitely shouldn't have a bunch of slow wave production versus fast wave production. The communication between our brain waves and our neurological pathways. I mean, you have to have good timing and coherence in communication. You wouldn't want your right hemisphere speaking Spanish and your left hemisphere speaking English, and they're trying to send messages back and forth. So we're looking at a wealth of information on those brain maps.
And you have my full permission to talk about my mapping, because I know there's some HIPAA stuff that you obviously have to follow, but you have my permission, out there. With my brain mapping, I thought it was super interesting because you're able to tell different things from my mapping. And I didn't tell you anything about myself because someone else actually did my onboarding. You weren't there for it, but you actually read my results. And you said something about like how I kind of like, you asked me a question. You're like, do you kind of get in like these states of periods of times where you're kind of low, maybe even in a depressed state? And I looked at you, I said, how did you know that? Yeah. Because like, I do get into those times where like, I'll be at a high functioning and then all of a sudden it just kind of crashes. And you're able to see that through my brain mapping, which I thought was insane.
I think we called your wife and you were like, I don't understand. This lady just told me all these things. What do you think? And she's like, oh my gosh. So
yeah.
That's the cool thing about those reports, right? Is people feel so validated and seen and understood, and even if they're skeptical, like you
let's go back to that, because you reached out to me and I said that sounds interesting and cool, but I thought to my head like this sounds interesting and cool in skepticism.
For sure.
Like I was like, all right, I'll go check this out. I don't know if this is going to be legit or not, but I'll go give it a try. No harm, no foul. And yeah, so I went into it full skeptic. Like I was like, I didn't really know what to expect.
Honestly, that's probably a large majority of our clients. I think people find the brain very daunting. And then even more so if it's, you're going to change my brain? Wait, what are we doing to the brain, right? It's a intimidating organ, I think, for people to quote unquote mess with. And I think that's the beauty of this process as we come alongside people. And not only are we going to validate you through the process, but we're going to get you super excited about, hey, we're not changing who you are. We're not changing your personality. We're optimizing your truly like God-given potential through this process. Like our brain should not feel out of control. I think so many of us feel like maybe we're a thermometer, right? Versus you need to be a thermostat. Like you get to set the tone of your household. You get to set the tone of your day, not feel like I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I have no energy. Like, why does it have to be this difficult? And so I sometimes ask people like, okay, well, you're struggling, but you don't want your brain to be enhanced just because you're skeptical. And so we come alongside and really help people understand, like, this shouldn't be a fear-based thing. We're not fixing anything. We're helping train your brain so that it can actually work for you instead of against you.
So after we do the brain scanning part of the mapping, then you actually get into the neurofeedback. So from that mapping, are you able to kind of give like lessons, homework, or through the scans? I mean, how's that?
If people aren't wanting to do the actual therapy where they're doing it's almost like PT for the brain, right? You're coming in and you're
like exercise,
teaching the brain a new way. But there's still a lot of other things that we can help people implement, right? Based off of a brain pattern, I can say, okay, you would benefit really well from this type of breath work, right? There's different brain patterns that would do really well, in my opinion, with something like box breathing versus diaphragmatic breathing versus combat breathing, or whatever the case may be. Bilateral stimulation tapping. There's different speeds in which you can bilaterally tap on your personal physiology to help get your brain into a focused state versus get it down regulated from an anxious state. So there's a lot of behavioral implementations that we can give people just based off of seeing their brain map. But 90% of our clients are going to want to actually do the neurofeedback on top of that.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Go do the neurofeedback. And then you said something about optimizing. You work with like a lot of athletes and CEOs and things like that too. Can you kind of talk about that? And obviously don't give names, but what was an athlete come in and what do they really want out of it?
Peak performance, focus, if they can increase their speed or their timing just by 1%, right? Because when you're working with top 1% athletes, CEOs, business owners, right, their ability to maximize whatever it is, their game, their score, their performance, their money, a deal that they're going to land is going to come from sometimes like those 1% decisions that they're making. So a lot of times you can set up protocols just to increase focus a little bit, right? Or help and deepen their sleep. Because if you can get them into a really deep state of restorative sleep, then right, they're going to wake up feeling better the next day. So it just kind of depends on what their goals are. But absolutely, this is not just about people that are struggling. Like, it's also about the people that are hungry to be their best versions of themselves.
What's probably the biggest problem? Like, is it like ADHD that you deal with the most of, or is it kind of like
stress and anxiety? Stress and anxiety all day long. Yeah.
Do you think that's just the age of time that we're in with like technology, social media, the reason why or do you think we've always struggled with stress and anxiety, but people are more willing to talk about it? I
think it's probably I think it's a little bit of both.
No, that's such a PC answer. Give me what you really think.
No, I definitely think there's ample research on the effects of social media, and we live in an overstimulated rush society, and that's just getting worse, right? Everything that we get to have as human beings is almost instantaneous. And so that takes away, honestly, the gift of who we are, like being able to sit in a state of being and be present and be completely not stimulated by something. We've gotten so far away from that then in the absence of overstimulation, then somebody's going to fill it with anxiety, right? Or overthinking or ruminating. So yes, of course, I do think that it's gotten a lot worse. I also think sometimes to an unhealthy stance, like mental health is starting to become such a trendy topic, but there's still not enough solutions. It's people are just, well, I am anxious. I have depression. I have trauma. And I'm over here like, well, what are you going to do about that? Like, it's one thing to identify that, but it's not your identity. So if you want to actually get to the root of it, like, let's work on those symptoms so that it's not a part of you. It's just something that you're struggling with right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I hear that all the time, like, oh, I have anxiety, depression, and stuff like that. And then we just kind of leave it there. Like, oh, okay, cool, great. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And you also were able to tell off of my brain mapping that I had the characteristics for an addiction. Because actually I do. I'm, recovering alcoholic. So I thought that was really interesting too. And so
I think I told you this, but I did thousands of brain maps for an addiction facility for a couple of years.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And it was fascinating. So if you think about addiction, right? And I think we all have like levels of addiction, whether it's social media, whether you're addicted to work, right? Like whatever it is, like maybe you're addicted to working out. Like there's just levels of addiction that we all play with. And then, people really do struggle with substance abuse and stuff like that. But I was able to look at these thousands of brain maps. And after a while, I stopped looking at their intakes. Like, okay, that person's addicted to heroin, this cocaine, this one, alcohol, whatever it is. And I started guessing, like, what is the drug of choice, if you will, for this person? And it was fascinating to be able to see, like, whatever a person is utilizing is the very thing that they're probably in need of to help balance some sort of discrepancy on their brain map. So the way I was able to tell that with you, right, is I think you had some underactive alpha in the back of your head. Well, we know every single time you have some sort of alcoholic beverage, it temporarily increases the power of alpha in your brain. So that allows you to feel present, allows you to disconnect, allows you to get out of your head and just kind of be, which your brain has a tendency to move really quick. So it was probably curbing that and quieting it down a little bit. Well, it makes perfect sense then why you're going to be attracted to that specific substance.
Wow. So you were able to tell from doing those brain scans of what drug of choice. So what, if someone wanted, it was, I don't know, heroin user, so you said mine was alpha. What was someone with heroin addiction? What was
usually wanting to uptick theta, down regulate high beta. So down regulate a stress wave and increase like a really kind of calm, dissociative, internally drowsy state.
So how did you get that gig? Was that just like you were just helping out with the drug?
This addiction facility owner wanted to have the highest known, and I think he got it. I can't remember exactly, but he wanted to be known as the addiction facility that had the lowest relapse rates in the country.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you ever find out if he made it?
I need to go back to them. I think I ended up just not.
I'll be interested to see people addicts with that do this scans. What's the percentage of them relapsing? Because obviously, it's probably there's always going to be relapse. Because it really depends on people working their program. This isn't a cure-all, be-all type, treatment.
I agree. No,
there's
for
other
addiction,
things.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
You have a mentor, you're working through different steps. It's not just do neurofeedback.
And you're, solved,
The difference between what I believe we bring to the table, I can't tell you how many people they've done therapy for years, right? I've been managing my anxiety with my therapist for 5 years. We're going to actually help re-regulate the hardware, right? I look at things like counseling, nutrition, working out, your favorite yoga classes, really amazing software that you're going to download on your hard drive. Except most people, it's not the software that's necessarily the only issue. Your hardware needs to be rewired, if you will. Neurofeedback is going to help with the hardware component. But this is why the software, to your point, what else are you doing behaviorally to set you up for success? But a lot of people are doing a lot of the things to try to help them, set themselves up for success. Yet at their default, their brain is just anxious or overthinking or overstimulated.
So what do you recommend for yourself now? So last time you got brain mapping or you had treatment was 17. Do you do this once a year? What's the recommendation? So
I'm maybe a bad neurofeedback owner. I don't really do brain training, honestly, because I feel pretty awesome 90% of the time. Yes, I deal with high stress. Yes, managing a company is hard, but I feel pretty in control of my brain for the most part. I talk about doing booster sessions, sort of like going to the dentist. Pop in once or twice a year, do a booster session. If you have a major transition or a major change that happens, it can be beneficial. But I'm never feeling like I was before. And so really the caveat to that is people should leave with a learned behavior. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you don't tend to forget that skill. It's the same thing with the brain. Your brain's not going to want to revert back to dysfunction. But caveats to that would be if you have a major head injury. We just have a client right now. She worked with us 4 years ago, and it's really unfortunately about had a miscarriage. She's obviously struggling with some grief and some anxiety around that. She's going to do some more sessions just to kind of calm her through that process. But other than that, your brain really shouldn't be moving backwards.
Right. Oh man, that's so interesting. When did neurofeedback come into play? Was this a recent invention? Or?
People think that it is, but learned behaviors have been around since the 40s. So think back Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
So operant conditioning was founded in the 1940s. I would say, though, that neurofeedback has really started to be more mainstream, closer over the past like 2 decades. Like a lot more people are starting to do it.
Did someone like invent these like caps and stuff? Like, where did
medical EEGs and softwares? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it just became like a big thing.
I mean, I think it's been an evolving field for sure. Yeah. Still
'Cause,
very
I mean,
unknown, untapped though.
I mean, literally the first time I ever heard about it was when you reached out. Like,
I know.
I mean, is there a lot of places in Oklahoma to get this done?
I think I've seen like 2 places that a lot of people know about. And then obviously Braincode Centers is here now too. Mm-hmm. Denver, a lot of people in Denver are, I think, sorry everybody, but I think Tulsa's and Oklahoma's a little bit behind when it comes to health. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We are like the fattest state in the country. So
Denver, Austin, even like Dallas, California, a lot of clients know about it, but I have noticed that Tulsa, a lot of people don't know about it yet.
So did you always want to grow it to this level, or did you just want to open up one shop?
I like to do everything in my life like pretty big. So I think I didn't know that it would ever, we're the largest neurofeedback practice in the country, which is super cool.
Oh.
So I didn't ever know it would get to that level.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So you started in Denver. When did you open up your Dallas location?
Couple years ago.
And then why did you open up a Tulsa location?
Because I moved here.
You moved here.
My husband.
So how long have you and your husband been married?
4 years.
4 years. So how did you meet him? Did you just like get him on feedback? Did you reach out to him and was like, hey, you need to do feedback?
That's really funny. First off, if you're dating, you can definitely map people's brains and see if, I'm just kidding. I always mapped
so much
guys.
sense because like you were able to tell me some like interesting stuff about myself. And so maybe that's like a first date if you're like wanting to really get serious with somebody,
Oh, I 100% mapped every single guy I dated.
Did you do that to your husband before you guys got married?
Yeah. Now again, there's no bad brains.
Yeah.
Brains can always be worked
There's only really jacked up brains.
Brains can always be worked on, but it's cool to see, like, if you see major trauma or like attachment issues, we can see attachment issues. I don't know if you're familiar with the attachment. Like, do they have an anxious attachment style? Do they have an avoidant attachment style? Those are more of the patterns that I would look for that I'd be like, ooh, that one I need to ask more questions about.
Did you find anything on your husband's?
No. He passed.
That's the reason why you guys got married.
That's the reason why.
So you also have a couple of little ones. Did you put them on feedback or map their brains or?
So my oldest, my 7-year-old, has begged me because he knows what we do. We're very brain conversationalists, like all the time. We're talking about nutrition and food. He's into it. So he's like, Mama, I want to get a brain map. Mama, I want to get a brain map. And a bunch of his friends from school ended up doing it. I did this like Tulsa summer special. And so I think he had literally heard this cute 7-year-olds talking on the playground, got my brain mapped. So I ended up doing it probably like 4 months ago.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So after they get their brain map, do you go ahead and just put them on the actual neurofeedback thing too, or do you just do the mapping and just try to teach them other stuff?
No, most people are really going to want to do, unless they're just looking for some sort of answer, or like, I want to know, is my kid diagnosably ADHD so I could maybe get him some help in school with like a letter or something like that. Most people are really going to want to actually go through the therapy. I haven't started my oldest on neurofeedback yet. Honestly, I just need to have some time, but and he's functioning rather decently well.
Right.
Kids can always be improved. But.
Yeah. What about your baby? Is there a certain age that you start doing this at, or?
I'd say 4 or 5 is probably like the youngest, just because you do have to sit still for a period of time. Yeah, my 8-month-old,
because that's the thing. You guys sit still for, what was the 20 minutes? Was it 20 minutes? Or?
Relatively still for kiddos, like 10 or 15.
Okay.
We can take breaks for the kids, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you basically, when we got ours done, you put a whole bunch of what's that liquid stuff?
Electrogel.
Yep, electrogel. Put some electrogel on my hair. Did not make my hair, jelly, but did not make it stiff. But I sat there and it was just like super laid back and chill. Like they played a little bit of music and it was super chill.
People think that you have to be in an anxious state to capture, oh, you're going to be able to see my anxiety. That is actually not how it works, right? Our brain is capable of shifting into different states. And so think of it like taking your blood pressure. Like you don't want to go have somebody run sprints before you take their baseline blood pressure. Same thing with the brain. You're just looking to get the brain kind of at rest at a normal day. We will be able to see that if something stressful happens, this is how your brain has a propensity to react.
Because that's the other thing that I was worried about. Because when I came in there that day, I was feeling good, and I was like, man, they're not going to be able to see nothing. Like I'm feeling great. Yeah. And then a couple weeks later, we sat down, and you're like, you have the most perfect brain I've ever seen, Steven. And I was like, great. That's awesome. The best brain.
The best brain.
The best brain. What would be some recommendations looking back on my account that you would recommend for me for if you can remember back, my brain?
I think for you, you have an overactive alpha wave production in your left prefrontal cortex, which is that kind of can teeter into depressive states sometimes. And so as simple as it is, like a gratitude journal can be super, super important. Like as silly as writing down what you're grateful for, it literally changes how your brain fires. That's really important. Getting outside, especially if you are feeling kind of waves of depression, critical. Like getting outside, getting sunlight, putting your bare feet in grass, in soil, like grounding yourself, key. Listening to more upbeat music. I don't know if you've ever heard of binaural beats also, but there's different frequencies. If you look at binaural beats, you could listen to ones of like hope or joy or gratitude. And the frequencies actually will help put your brain into that state. Now, it's not going to, again, train your brain to change that state, but at least temporarily it can get you unstuck out of that. Those are some of the ones I can think of.
See, that's really interesting because when we talked before, I didn't know that you guys also had like little things you could do without the neurofeedback part that could actually help, which was that's super interesting. I didn't even know about the music thing. What is it called?
Binaural beats.
Binaural.
Send you a text.
Yeah, send me a text because I'm gonna go look that up. Is it like on Spotify? Can I look that up?
I think you could probably look it up on Spotify.
Look it up on Spotify. And then you have this remote stuff. What is this? You guys just launched this recently, maybe last year or two?
Yeah, 2 years ago. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
So I think our society has gone so far away. People want things convenient. They don't want to drive to appointments. Everybody's somehow busier than they were 5 years ago. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And so the remote option is awesome. We actually have a headband, a Braincode headband that goes just around the head. It has these little copper electrodes, so when you put it on, they set flush to the surface of your scalp. We have our own Braincode remote app, so our clinical team puts like your tailored protocols into the profile in the app. So when you're ready to do one of your sessions, you would just put that bad boy on, pull up the app, and then the visual and auditory feedback would be right there on the phone. So video won't play, sounds will not play, right, unless your brain is hitting those thresholds that we're asking it to. And it's really cool too, because you're actually able to see, like, you're getting scores, like real-time data-driven scores on how your brain is performing and how you're doing. So you're getting to see trends tracking in the right direction. So I love being able to see qualitative progress, right alongside quantitative progress.
So when you're doing those brain mapping, through the remote, do you do it like every single day for the rest of your life? Or is it just like a program for like 6 months or 3 months?
No, so it's actually, it's 6 months, and most clients are training like 3 times a week for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Some of our overachievers, which I love them, they'll train, 5 times a week or put it in their daily routine in the morning or at night. So, but 3 times a week to have clinical repetition, right? Because it's all about repetition rewires the brain. 3 times a week is what you'll want to shoot for.
Okay. And then they do that. So some people do it for the rest of their life. They just do it every single day?
No.
No.
Because remember, right, we're trying to get people like actual brain change. So by 6 months, hopefully you're graduated and you're done.
Okay.
And call us if for some reason you need to reactivate the headband if you go through something really, really, really tough.
Yeah. I was wanting to make sure, because with the whole remote thing, I thought like they just do it forever. I'm like, oh, well, that would be a lot.
It's a commitment. Yeah.
That would be a lot.
If you want to, I guess you could just keep training your brain, but no.
Yeah. Yeah. What's another success story that you've kind of comes to mind for you?
We had a Green Beret back in the day, and he came in and was on like 17 different medications. Just his eyes, he didn't even look like he was there. I mean, this would probably be one of the hardest cases. Like, I did not think, I was like, I don't know how we're going to get this guy feeling better. Like, this is going to be tough. He had gained, I guess, 100 pounds in 3 or 4 months or something like that. So just everything about him was not in a good place. Was hearing things. I mean, I think he kept just turning back in the room and being like hearing birds chirping or who knows. 3 or 4 months later, he had gotten off half of his medications, which is tough to do that many like med withdrawals, and had lost 50 pounds. 3 more months later, he was off every single one of the 17 prescriptions that they had put him on. He had lost 100 pounds plus like another 20 that he wanted. He would come in, eyes bright, like so happy, smiling again. He's like, Rachel, you guys gave me my life back. Like I thought that being a Green Beret was tough. Like being in a mental health crisis almost killed me. So that one was really powerful.
How did you Google search or just online? Is that how you kind of find it? Because it kind of sounded like it was like almost like a last ditch effort. He was like, man, I got to have something change.
Yeah. I want to say the VA maybe like sent him over.
Yeah. Sent him over and said, hey, check this out. Yeah. What's some of the skepticism that people have coming into the, neurofeedback and mapping?
I think a lot of people, the first question is like, is it going to work?
Yeah.
Is this going to work? Like it's, an investment of my time, an investment of my money. Like I think people have tried so many things that they're already coming in with a level of hopelessness that as much encouragement as we can even give, they're still like, I've been anxious for 10 years. There's no way that this is going to work. Right. So even just that is a huge one. A lot of people think that brain training can change who you are. Like I can literally, I can mess you up. So like I'm going to take away your anxiety, but then I'm going to make you an irritable piece of crap dad or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what people think, but so I think this myth that brain training is going to change who I am or get me worse off than I was before. Think about it like the gym. Like if I were to say, do you think mostly everybody, unless you have some sort of physical ailment, would do well with some sort of exercise?
Yeah.
That really is as simple as brain training is it is exercise for your brain. We are creating endurance, strength, flexibility, and we know that neurological plasticity equals mental wellness. So that hopefully in a nutshell helps people understand that. What are other people's skepticisms? A lot of people think we're like putting electricity into the brain.
That's what I first thought. That's what I thought you guys were going to do.
So there are things like TMS, transmagnetic stimulation, where they're putting little microvoltage into the brain. There's ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. We definitely don't do that. There's definitely some different like modalities out there that put stim into the brain. Neurofeedback is not doing that, at least the type that we're utilizing, where we are literally just picking up brainwaves from the surface, like an EKG of a heartbeat, and feeding back to the brain when it's doing a good job.
Man. How many things have you read? Like
EEGs?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Probably 17,000.
17,000. How many do you read a day? Or used to? Probably don't read.
My EEG specialist, she's amazing. 2 of them just sit there and read beautiful squiggly lines all day long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do it sometimes. Like I think I did yours.
Yeah, you did mine.
So I'll do people that pop in or networking or VIP stuff like that.
Oh, VIP. So what's been the hardest thing about opening all these things? I want to kind of talk about your business now. Like,
man,
like what's like?
I mean, business owners, employees, managing employees is probably one of the most difficult things.
Yeah,
you have a lot of different personalities. You're trying to meet a lot of needs. Hiring is so hard these days. Oh my gosh, hiring is difficult. Finding good people. But when you find them, you just got to keep them and love on them forever.
Who's your first employee? Was it your person that's kind of your right hand person now?
No, actually not. I had this other gal that worked with me in Denver. She doesn't work with me anymore, but Angie.
She started up her own business?
She did, yeah.
Did she really?
I think there's about 25 clinics in Denver that were originally trained at Braincode.
No way.
Which I actually love that. I'm kind of a launching pad for a lot of other clinics, and I do have a passion for that. I want more people, like all ships rise.
But go to a different market.
Nobody knows what neurofeedback is.
In Denver?
Now in Denver,
Okay.
there's
Okay.
a lot of education
But
around
time?
it. At the time, nobody
Okay.
still knew. I look at it like chiropractic. There's a chiropractor on every corner.
There's a lot of
Back in the day, nobody knew what it was.
There's a lot of dispensaries here in Oklahoma too.
I don't even know how they stay in business. I don't get it.
Since you live in Denver, which city has more dispensaries? Oklahoma or Denver?
Oklahoma, isn't it known?
Seriously?
I think Oklahoma has the most dispensaries per capita, right?
I didn't know that. I was just kidding.
I heard this. No, I heard this.
So there's more dispensaries here in Tulsa than in Denver?
I
mean per capita?
I think so.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that, but
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are doing down here smoking.
Well,
down here.
we don't have neurofeedback.
Nobody has alpha.
We don't have neurofeedback, so we gotta toke up.
Apparently.
Gotta toke up. Man, so 25 of your employees, you gotta put a non-compete in.
I don't think you can. That doesn't really hold up in
Oh,
court.
does it? Okay.
Non-compete.
I don't know, but
And I really don't mind. At the end of the day, I know what we offer is exceptional. So
you're not worried about the competition.
I really am not. And if more people go get help, like if there's a closer clinic, I mean that. Like I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
We have a remote program now, so honestly, so many people just want remote anyways. So
Yeah. Are you thinking about just going full remote, or are you going to keep some locations open?
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Got some options.
You got some options? Ooh, breaking news. Shutting
see.
down everything. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Well, how many employees do you have?
50.
50?
Yeah.
50 employees. How many do you have here in Tulsa?
We have our back end staff here, so 5.
What do you mean by back end staff?
So if you call in and you're not sleeping, you got migraines, then you speak with my consultation specialist that will book you with myself or Angie to meet. So she does all the calls there. We created sort of like the call-in center.
Oh, so like the call-in centers Tulsa.
Yes.
Okay.
That way I can see them and interact. And
Okay. And so you'll talk to, so if they're like calling in from a different state or a different city, then
Exactly.
they're basically calling Tulsa.
Yeah.
They don't know that, but
correct.
yeah. So, and how many you said you have here?
6.
6. But if you live here in Tulsa, you could come into the office still, right?
Yeah, we have an
Okay.
office right off of 31st in Harvard. So beautiful office, amazing staff, fantastic.
Is it building? Is there Tulsa starting to grow now? A little bit?
The clinic in Tulsa.
Yeah, the clinic in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are people hearing about that? Just on social media?
Honestly, just more like word of mouth out
Word of
here.
mouth, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about Tulsa is like once the word starts spreading, it starts spreading.
Yes.
And
I have
people will
learned
start
that.
coming in. And also where your office is at is right in Midtown. So Midtown Tulsa, if
go.
someone hears it, then they're coming.
For sure.
They're coming. What's the with your business? Is your Denver offices probably the best producing, just because they've been around for so long?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we've had those offices open for so long. We'll see at one clinic, we're going to see about 300 patients per week. So it's pretty busy. And those clinics, Dallas a little bit different. And then Tulsa, obviously, is my more boutique office with less clinicians, less clients, but growing.
Nice, growing. What's the with you? Like, if someone wanted to get into this, because the girl that did my EKG, or was EKG? EEG, sorry. EEG. She actually just got into it maybe a year and a half ago, graduated from college. What's kind of the recommendations if someone wants to get into this type of work? Like, what are some of the things that they need to do? Like, if it's getting a certain degree or getting certain certifications, like, what would you recommend?
There's a lot of different ways. I mean, you can go the medical route, you can go the clinical mental health counseling route, and it just depends. I mean, if you want a level of prestige, I definitely think like you need to go get board certified. You need to get somebody yourself or somebody QEEG
Now, board
certified.
certified. When you say board certified, is that like being a doctor? Like
Board certified in neurofeedback. So we have
Okay.
like our own governing board of neurofeedback in the
Oh.
field. Yeah.
So there's his own board. Has that been around forever, a long time, or is that
Good
just?
question. I don't know
Yeah.
how long.
Are you board certified?
Yeah.
Oh.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
I figured you were. Do you have how many people Braincode Centers are board certified?
So I'm also an approved board certified mentor. So a lot of people seek me out to get certified under. So you have to go through a pretty like rigorous process, and you have to work with somebody that is board certified. So either my team is board certified because they've been with me for a while, or they're working towards that under my wing, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And there's just a bunch of hoops that they have to do to get in that. But almost every one of my staff is
okay
in that process, if not already board certified.
And how long does that process take?
Depends how if you're an eager beaver or whatnot. But yeah, we have some of our team that just kind of goes at their own pace, or maybe they have a family and they're doing a bunch of different things. Other people, it's like they just hammer it out. Depends on the personality. So it's the overachievers in school probably do it well. And, didn't you not do very well in school?
No, I did not.
So you probably would take like a couple years.
Yes, I would take forever.
Get board certified.
I would take.
He told me this.
Yes, would take me a long time. Long time. I made in my college years, I did a victory lap.
Yeah.
I did my 5th year, a little victory lap.
I think I did I think I was like 4.5 or something.
4.5. Oh, that's not
half
bad.
Victory lap.
Yeah, half victory lap. You just wanted that one more semester of college experience.
Something like that.
So getting a board certification would be one way. Was there some other ways?
Working with a really reputable practice. I mean, that is hands down the best way to get experience and just have the acumen that you'll need to be a really good clinician. And I'm biased, probably that's why I did it how I did it, that's how I did it how I did it. But I definitely think there's people out there that go take like a quick course, they try to open up shop, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't get the best feedback about clinics like that.
Yeah. There's also another thing, I said there was no other brain mapping thing that I've heard of in Tulsa, but it's called a sphere. Have you heard of this? Of a brain sphere or something like that?
I don't think I've heard of that.
A magmasphere? Have you heard of magmasphere?
It's like something that people go into.
It's like 2 circles. It almost looks like something from X-Men.
There's all these crazy new, I don't even know how expensive these machines are, but there's all these new insane pods and machines that people sit in that are supposed to put some sort of magnetic field. I don't know if that's what that is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these popping up. I don't know enough about them yet.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I was so skeptic on this thing at first. I'm telling you, if you didn't tell me kind of what was in my head of my life experiences of kind of going through these nulls and being hyperactive and certain, I probably still wouldn't believe it.
So it's interesting, right? If you were to really ask, you ask a room of people who tends to be more of a skeptic or not, right? You typically have 2 handfuls of people, just like you have rule followers and you have rule breakers. You have people that are innately more spenders, more savers. I just believe that. Now, yes, you can cross over a little bit, but there is a literal brain pattern, that fast processing speed that we talked about. 9 out of 10 people with fast processing speeds are going to be much more skeptical, right? But that's also the very thing that they struggle with. They struggle with analysis process. They struggle with overthinking everything. They struggle with worrying. They struggle with catastrophizing. They struggle with sitting still and being present. So that very same brain pattern that's making them kind of skeptical and overthinking it is the very reason that they're not feeling their best. A lot of we have IT people. I have a handful, this is interesting, rocket scientists that reach out to us. They're the ones that hammer me with all the questions. So I love it. I'm bring on the skepticism, but I'm I already know what your brain probably
Have you ever
like.
met somebody just out in the normal world and you're like, I want to read your brain? You ever come across anybody like that?
My girlfriend and I, my VP, who's one of my best friends, her and I can make bets. And maybe that's part of the skepticism or scary part of it. You can kind of start to read people's energy and make pretty educated guesses on what their brain pattern is going to look like.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I'm off.
Yeah. So when you first met me, did you have me lined up? Were you just off my videos, because we didn't really talk that much until I came in. But
I don't know if sometimes I have people that are but you can't guess it. So I'm prepped with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know if I didn't put any money on the line.
Right. Okay. Well, that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, I was so shocked, and we touched on this earlier, but I just want to say that again. I was so shocked. I called my wife and I was listen to this which voodoo person like reading my brain. It was crazy.
She liked it.
Yeah, she liked it. I mean, we have to get her in there.
I know.
I want to get my son in there too. So where can people reach out to you and find you at?
Well, definitely if you're listening, follow us on Instagram. That's a really cool way to educate yourself. So at Braincode Centers. If you are interested in a free consultation, completely free to speak with us and learn more about it, you can inquire braincodecenters.com and just fill out the schedule a consultation or give us a call and my scheduling team will take care of you.
Perfect. Awesome. And then did you give them your Instagram too? I didn't hear that part. Did you?
At Braincode Centers.
Oh, at braincodecenters.com. Yeah. Because you guys have some pretty great content out there.
We try.
You guys do good.
We do our best.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. And then if you are interested in listening to more episodes, you can click that link right there. Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank you. So good seeing you.